on.
Oh, that's good. All right, 6 o'clock. I want to take this time to welcome you to our Apex Town Council meeting. It is election night. Those that are under the sound of my voice and present tonight, if you haven't voted yet, you have an hour and 29 minutes. You can still make it. So, and this will be recorded, so you got time to go vote, and you can watch this later. But I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order for Tuesday, November 8, 2022, and we're glad you joined us tonight. I do want to recognize Fernando from our Town of Apex IT for all the work he does behind the scenes to bring this live stream to everyone in Apex. So let's move on now to our invocation. Before we get there, I'm going to ask the American Legion, Apex Post 124, to please post the colors. If you would, please stand.
Forward, march. Guard, halt. Post, colors. Guard, halt. Place, colors. Face, colors. Present, arms. 2.
You would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
symbol, march. Mark time. Forward, march.
Thank you, American Legion. As the Town of Apex celebrates faith, and it is a tradition in our community, we recognize that not everyone practices the same faith tradition, but we welcome you to have a private moment of silence at this time. Tonight will be led in our invocation by Reverend Merker from Jordan Lutheran Church.
We pray. Gracious and ever-loving God, we thank you for the creation that you have given to us. Be with this, our nation, on a day of elections, that you would be with all those who have voted and are voting, that you would allow those who are elected to serve well, that they would care for all those that they represent. We ask that you be with families and students in our town, that you would help us in the different callings that you have given to us. Guide us, protect us, and be with this council in the decisions they make this night in this chamber. In Jesus' name we offer these prayers and petitions. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Merker. All right, you can be seated. Thank you. All right, we'll move now to our consent agenda. All consent agenda items are considered routine to be enacted by one motion with the adoption of the consent agenda and without discussion. If a council member requests discussion of an item, the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
All right, Mahaffey,
I'll
motion.
second it.
Second, Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes unanimously. We'll move now to our first of 4 presentations tonight, and we'll begin with a presentation by the Apex Public School Foundation Quarterly Peak Star Awards, led by Councilman Terry Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is our quarterly presentation of what we call the Peak Star Award. The
Peak Star Award stands for the Peak, that's Apex, Staff, Teachers, and Administration Recognition Award. It's something that we do every couple months in collaboration with the Apex Public School Foundation to recognize one of our educators or administrators, staff members, for the great work that they do here in Apex to support our students. And as I said, we partner with the Apex Public School Foundation, so I'd like to ask President Mitchell to tell us a little bit more about the foundation and learn about our awardee tonight.
Yes, hi, thank you for having us. We are the Apex Public School Foundation, and we maintain a fund to enhance the curriculum of all of our Apex area 19 Wake County Public School System, or Wake County Public Schools. And one of our main programs is a teacher grant program in which teachers apply for innovative and creative curriculum to enhance the curriculum for our students. And this particular program, why we're here tonight, is the shout out. Every Tuesday, we get nominations from a different school via the principal for staff that are doing excellent work in their schools. And we know there's so many staff to choose from that are doing excellent work. So it's not an easy task. So tonight, based on those nominations, we then every quarter bring them all together, and as a board, we pick one Peak Star to award. And so tonight we recognize Tara Gillespie. She's from Middle Creek High School. And so this is from Ms. Peckham, who is the principal at Middle Creek High School. Tara Gillespie is a rock star. As the dean of students at Middle Creek High School, she wears many hats and is a leader of a strong student services department. Her standout qualities include her love and commitment to the school and its community members, and her continuous drive to meet the needs of students and families within it. She can be seen at all of our engagement events, whether virtual, in person, or even out in the neighborhoods of our community, and she's often the one organizing and facilitating the event. She is a wealth of knowledge and compassion, and it is no exaggeration to say that she is irreplaceable. Thank you to Ms. Gillespie for all that she does for Middle Creek High School.
Right.
They were my remarks, but I will just add, every piece of it is heartfelt and true, and on behalf of our entire community. There is no, one of our kind of catchphrases as a school community is we are a strong stable, and there's no one stronger in our stable or that provides more stability in our stable than Ms. Gillespie. And so we're just really grateful to have her, and honestly very grateful for the opportunity for the public highlight of all the good things going on in our school and in the schools in Apex. So we're grateful for that opportunity and humbled that one of ours got highlighted across all of Apex. So thank you.
Awesome.
Well, Ms. Gillespie, I think now would be a good time for me to actually give you your award.
Okay.
Come down here. We did the picture thing earlier, but thank you again for all the work that you do for our students here in Apex.
Thank you so much for this. I have loved working for Middle Creek High School for 20 years and working in the public school system, and your support just really means a lot for a tough job. So thank you. We all do it for love and for the love of the students, so thank you again for your support.
Well, we love you too. Thank you. Ms. Mitchell, you want to give a quick reminder about what's happening Thursday night?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you for allowing me to do that. We are having our first fundraiser game show. It's going to be, Are You Smarter Than an Apex Student? We will be, we will have some Apex area students go up against some of our Apex area teachers and parents. It's going to be a really fun event. We'll have food trucks. It'll be at Apex Friendship High School. It's at 6:30. And our MC for the evening will be your Mayor Gilbert. So we're looking forward to this event, and we hope you all will be able to join us.
All right. I'll be there with my gold shoes. Ready to roll.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Do you have a website for if people do want to come and purchase tickets and
Thank you very
be
much for
supportive?
reminding me. Yes, the website is helpapexschools.org. So you can get tickets online beforehand. If you need to, you can also do it at the door. So
Thank you.
helpapexschools.org.
All right. Thank you so much. Councilman Mahaffey, thank you so much for leading that.
Thank you, and thank you to Stephanie and to Ms. Gillespie for all the work that you guys do for Apex. Again, thanks.
Great. All right, move now to Proclamation Small Business Day, Saturday, November 26th. And as we always do, we will join in unity and read a section of the proclamation.
All right. So proclamation for Small Business Saturday, 2022, whereas the town of Apex, North Carolina celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our economy and to our unique and vibrant community character, and whereas small businesses need our support as they navigate and retool from the effects of a global pandemic, and
Whereas according to United States Small Business Administration, there are 33.2 million small businesses employing 46.4% of the private workforce in the United States. And whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration in North Carolina, there are 994,576 small businesses in North Carolina, and they account for 99.6% of North Carolina businesses. And
Whereas, according to the 2021 Small Business Saturday Consumer Insights Survey, sales at independent retailers and restaurants on Small Business Saturday reached an estimated $23.3 billion in 2021, up 18% from $19.8 billion in 2020. And whereas Small Business Saturday celebrates the remarkable spirit of Apex, North Carolina small businesses, and shows how essential they are to our community, and
Whereas companies planning promotions on Small Business Saturday said the day helps their business stand out during the busy holiday shopping season and contribute significantly to their holiday sales each year. And whereas public awareness of the contributions made by Apex local businesses is the key to sustaining a healthy business climate. And
Whereas the citizens of Apex are grateful to the small businesses of Apex for their presence in our community, and whereas the town of Apex joins the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the Apex Chamber of Commerce in supporting America's small businesses.
Now therefore, I, Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of the town of Apex, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 26, 2022, as Small Business Saturday in Apex, and urge all residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Signed this 8th day of November 2022 by yours truly. So I'd like to have Colleen Marais, our Small Business Manager of the Economic Development Department, to come up.
I also have a slide for you guys. So, as you know, now we're in my, what is this, third year of doing Small Business Saturday for Apex, North Carolina. So again, we have over 40 different businesses doing specials on Small Business Saturday. I provided you all with a quick draft because I'm still getting some specials in. And actually, it's funny that Apex Public School Foundation came up before us because they're actually going to be a beneficiary from promotional partners, and Downtown Apex is doing a pop-up. So proceeds from their sales that day will help support Apex Public School Foundation as well. So there's some really great specials. You can go to our Apex Economic Development website and get all the details as we get closer to the event. And also we'll have a Google Maps so you can figure out how to navigate, but even better, now that we have Go Apex, you can make this really easy for yourself and park once and ride to almost every single destination on the Small Business Saturday without having to navigate where to park, how to park, carrying tons of packages. It's that easy. So come out and support Apex's wonderful small businesses. As you all read, over 99% of North Carolina small business. So what better way to kick it off the holiday shopping season than to kick it off with small businesses? So thank you.
Got something for you. If you're a small business owner, stand up and be recognized.
He's in the promotion too.
Please give these nice people a contribution to Apex and our nation. So this is you.
Thank you.
Proclamation. Where you gonna hang it at?
come visit me at the depot downtown at the Welcome Center and get some Apex swag while you're there.
All right, moving to Proclamation 3, and it's Veterans Day, Friday, November 11, 2022. It's going to be led tonight by our Councilman Ed Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. And as many of you within the town of Apex may have noticed, if you look at our water towers, they're surrounded by green lights. And that's part of a national effort called Green Lighting a Veteran. What we're doing is making sure that you can, by shining a green light on veterans, you bring attention to the various issues that those who have served our nation are facing. And it also gives everybody a moment to just recognize those men and women who have fought, and some have given the ultimate price for the country. I sit here as a proud member of American Legion Post 124, those proud men and women in the back, and it's my honor to be able to kick off this proclamation. Your Honor, with permission of the mayor, whereas the greatest acknowledgement of our freedom is to honor our armed forces veterans who have sacrificed and in many instances paid the ultimate price for our freedom. And
Whereas the town of Apex recognizes the service and sacrifice veterans have provided to our community and the nation, and whereas Apex is home to over 2,000 veterans and their families, and
Whereas Veterans Day was first proposed in 1919 as Armistice Day, a day to celebrate world peace and veterans of World War I, and
Whereas former President Dwight D. Eisenhower issued the first Veterans Day proclamation on October 8th, 1854, or it should be 1954, and within the proclamation stated it has been our custom to commemorate November 11th, the anniversary of the ending of World War I, by paying tribute to the heroes of that tragic struggle and by rededicating ourselves to the cause of peace, and
Whereas both men and women of our armed forces continue to be an inspiration to all of us through their demonstration of courage, leadership, and commitment and service to our community and country, and whereas we in the town of Apex will always remember and pay homage to our military community, both active and inactive, for their contribution, dedication, and commitment to the cause of our freedom.
Now therefore, I, Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of the town of Apex, do hereby recognize Friday, November 11, 2022, as Veterans Day in Apex and urge the Apex community to proudly join together with the rest of our nation to salute and give special honor and recognition to the men and women who have courageously served us in our armed forces. Signed this 8th day of November 2022 by yours truly. Councilman Gray.
And if the commander of American Legion Post 124, Sandra Edens, could come up here and join me. And if you receive this on behalf of all over 2,000 veterans within Apex, on their behalf, thank you.
And Councilman Gray, it's my understanding we will have an event on Friday at the downtown memorial, correct?
Right, but we just learned that there might be a little bit of a weather issue, so we'd like folks to stand by as we have apparently a little bit of a
Cold
rain
is coming
event.
through. Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll keep you posted. Thank you, sir. All right, move now to our final proclamation, Native American Heritage Month, November 2022.
I'm starting, okay. Whereas the history and culture of our great nation has been significantly influenced by American Indians and indigenous peoples, and
whereas the contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today, and
whereas their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States, and
Whereas Native American Awareness Week began in 1976 and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August of 1990, designating the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month, and
Whereas the residents, businesses, and government institutions of the town of Apex, North Carolina are firmly committed to celebrating and promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and cultural traditions of our town's communities.
Now therefore, I, Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of the Town of Apex, do hereby declare November 2022 as Native American Heritage Month in Apex, and call upon all residents to reflect on significant contributions Native American communities have made to shape our national life. Signed this 8th day of November 2022 by yours truly, Mayor Jacques Gilbert. So if I could have Rosanna and our wonderful DEI Director, Linda Graham-Jones, to come up. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for your engagement in the community on all you do. We're extremely proud. It's my honor to present this to you on behalf of all of the people.
Appreciate it so very much.
Absolutely. And you want to have a few words?
I'd like to.
Okay, sure.
I want to say to everybody who had made this possible how wonderful it is for our community and Native Americans to be finally appreciated, recognized, and actually they're silent no more. We lived in silence, we lived transparently because the world wasn't ready to accept us as we are. My family, many of our ancestors are now, our family is now in the grave, but their spirit lives on. I am their voice from the past. I am their voice for the present, and I am their voice for the future. And I want to thank everyone who has made this possible. I wish my family could have seen this. The blood of our ancestors is in this land, and today they are silent no more. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks everyone. We'll go ahead and close out the presentations and move now to setting of the regular meeting agenda. And colleagues, you do have the agenda in front of you. Are there any recommended changes? Okay, so noting we're adding closed session.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the added closed session.
Okay.
Second.
All right, have a motion second. Discussion? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passed unanimously. We have a set agenda. We move now to public forum. Have an opportunity for the community to come and present any concerns, suggestions, ideas, recommendations. You have 3 minutes. And as the town clerk brings me the list, we'll get moving with it. We'll start tonight with Reverend Michael Merker.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Mike Merker. I am the pastor at Jordan Lutheran Church, which holds property at 1201 Chapel Ridge Road, and I'm here this evening just to thank you. For listening over the past several months with questions and presentations from the Chapel Ridge community related to the Chapel Ridge North PUD rezoning. So as Jordan moves into the next stage of developing our plan to submit back to you the town to get in touch with town staff again, I just wanted to come and say thanks. We just appreciate what you do, and I realize many times things are thankless. So this is just me saying, hey, you're appreciated. So have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. All right, next to speak tonight is BP.
Good evening. My name is Baldwin Honroth, a lot easier, BP Honroth. And I'm here to say 2 simple words. Thank you. Because what I heard at the meeting, at our last meeting, some very important things associated with the unanimous approval of this PUD. I heard talk of flexibility. Heard talk of maintaining the public trust. I heard the significance of the project advancements that the developer continue to provide through compromise and improvements in the project. Very important, a very simple humanitarian observation of the benefits of the bus route, the stops, et cetera, to a disabled veteran. I heard about the affordable housing, the important standards that this project provides a base for other projects, one that should be exceeded, and one should carry this town forward even more so. And of course, I cannot forget the most unique use of the phrase, the Holy Trinity. So again, thank you, and it's a pleasure being at your town council meetings and watching wonderful things in public activities happen. Good day to you. Blessings.
Thank you, sir. Last speaker tonight is Elizabeth Stitt.
Things must go in threes. So I know you aren't going to believe this, but I told Jeff Roach walking the door, he's like, what are you going to talk tonight? I told him, I'm going to say thank you tonight. He was like, really? So it was not planned, and I like the Holy Trinity, and I like to think a woman is a part of the Holy Trinity because my God is female a lot of times. So with that aside, I did want to mention that I have had a lot of meetings in the last week with the town. So Diane spent time with me and their short staff, so obviously I appreciate that. Spent some time with Shannon Cox, spent some time with Mike Deaton, and I had the chance to bring some of my community in with me, and I've got one of my neighbors in the back, so we're all stepping up. But in addition to saying thank you, the fact that today is election, I know you guys all ran. It's not a fun process. Serving's not a fun process, so just want to say thank you for that as well. Good night.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone coming to speak tonight. All right, we move now to public hearings. Start with annexation number 744, 7805 Green Level Church Road, presented tonight by Diane Ken.
Thank you, Lauren. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We do have an annexation. It's in the northern part of our jurisdiction. It is owned by Mildred C. Duke and contains 2.24 acres. This property was an emergency well situation, so they're already going through the process to hook up to water, but we do need to follow through with the annexation, so we recommend that this property be annexed at this time. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none.
I make a motion to approve.
All right, let me open the public hearing first.
sorry.
Okay, that's all right. We're going to get there quickly, trust me. All right. We know where you're trying to go. Yeah.
We all are.
All right, we'll go ahead and open up public hearing for comment on this item. No one has signed up, so we'll close public hearing, and it's back to council for possible motion to approve.
Motion approved?
Motion to approve.
No.
Motion to approve. Stallings? Second, great. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passed unanimously. All right, move now to public hearing 2 and 3 together, presented tonight by Lauren. Ms. Lauren Stoudemire.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So this is annexation 734 and rezoning case 227CZ09 for Outlet Farms PUD, located at 3720 Old US 1 Highway in 0 New Hill, Olive Chapel Road. The properties are located in this general area in Wake County. Properties are north of Old US 1 and west of New Hill, Olive Chapel Road. They're located south of Bellaterra and east of Jordan Points. The properties are also seeking to be annexed into the town for sewer and water. The properties are currently zoned Wake County Residential 40W with a small portion right here of Wake County Residential 80W. To the north, we have Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning. To the east, we have Wake County Residential 40W and Mixed Office Residential Retail Conditional Zoning. And to the south, we have Wake County Residential 40W. To the west, Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning and a small portion of Wake County Residential 40W. The applicant is proposing to rezone the properties to Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning. The 2045 land use map designates the subject properties as low-density residential and low-density office employment. The proposed rezoning to Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning is consistent with that land use map designation. To orient you to the slide, the north is this way, so this will be the north. The site consists of 2 parcels totaling 56.59 acres. The northern property is vacant with existing vegetation and a stream that bisects from north to south. The southern property contains existing historic structures and residential structures, and a stream that bisects the property from north to south with existing vegetation. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on April 27th. The neighborhood meeting report is in your packet. A full list of the proposed uses is on page 2 of the staff report. The proposed residential uses include single-family, accessory apartment, and other uses associated to non-residential subdivisions. The applicant is proposing a maximum number of 113 units with a maximum density of 2 units per acre. The proposed minimum lot width is 50 feet, and the minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet. A full list of the proposed residential setbacks is on page 2 of the staff report, and a full list of the zoning conditions can be found on page 3 of the staff report. I'd like to point out 2 in particular. This is the first one. No covenant shall be placed on the property which prohibits accessory apartment as a use. And number 12, which is the affordable housing condition, to summarize, is they're required to do a minimum of 2 single-family homes to median income families earning 100% of the AMI with a minimum affordability period of 20 years. So as I mentioned, the north is at this location. So the applicant is proposing a 10-foot type B buffer along this property line adjacent to Belterra, a 10-foot type B along here, and a 20-foot type B along here. Along the east is a 10-foot type B and a 10-foot type B along the west as well, along Jordan Point and Country Acres Lane. A 30-foot type B is proposed to be along Old US 1 and New Hill Olive Chapel Road, except for this location here, with the exception of a 30-foot type E buffer fronting the existing historic farmhouse and accessory structures as requested by Capital Area Preservation and the State Historic Preservation Office. The hatching represents future development, and the buffers within the future development at these locations will be removed in these locations. The properties are redeveloped in conjunction with the Martin, Miller, and/or Vitek properties located south and east of the area shown as future development. The red asterisk, as I mentioned earlier, is for the historic house and the outbuildings. The RCA shall meet the requirements of the UDO. This development is exempt from initially providing RCA since the proposed low density and single-family redevelopment has a maximum of 2 units per acre. However, if a mass grading is proposed in the single-family sections, the development will need to provide an additional 5% of RCA. A full list of the architectural conditions can be found on page 5 of the staff report. The residential conditions are what we generally see. The maximum building height proposed for residential is 36 feet, no more than 2 stories. A traffic impact analysis has been performed as part of this PUD. And I'll summarize a few of the road improvements. However, the full TIA can be found on page 6 of the staff report. And Mr. Russell Dalton is here to provide clarification or answer any questions. All proposed driveway access and improvements on state-maintained roadways are subject to NCDOT review and approval. Roadway improvements are subject to modification and final approval by the Town of Apex and NCDOT as part of the Master Subdivision Plan and Construction Document Approval process. This will help with the next condition. The Old US 1 and New Hill Olive Chapel Road and New Hill Holloman Road, I believe at this location. The developer shall construct an eastbound right turn lane with 175 feet of storage and appropriate deceleration, length, and taper. In the event there is insufficient right-of-way for this off-site transportation improvement, developer shall use commercially reasonable efforts to acquire the right-of-way through good faith negotiations, starting with an offer to the third-party landowners based upon an appraised value of the right-of-way to be acquired. In the event such negotiations are unsuccessful and the Town of Apex is unable or unwilling to assist the developer in acquiring the requisite right-of-way, developer shall pay a fee in lieu and the amount of the appraised cost of the required right-of-way plus estimated construction costs of the turn lane. Along Old US 1 and site driveways, the developer shall construct 2 access points on Old US 1, consisting of Site Drive 1, a full movement stop-controlled public street intersection approximately 1,200 feet west of the intersection of New Hill Olive Chapel Road, including an eastbound left turn lane on Old US 1. Site Drive 2, a full movement stop-controlled public street intersection approximately 1,050 feet west of the intersection of Old US 1 and Site Drive 1, including an eastbound left turn lane on Old US 1. A letter of impact from Wake County Public School Systems was received for this rezoning and is included in the staff report packet. Wake County Public School System indicates that elementary, middle, and high schools within the current assignment area for this rezoning development are anticipated to have insufficient capacity for the future students. Transportation to schools outside of the current assignment area should be anticipated. School expansion or construction within the next 5 years may address concerns at the elementary, middle, and high school grade level. The Environmental Advisory Board held a meeting with the applicant on April 21st. The zoning conditions suggested by the EAB are listed on page 7 of the staff report, along with the applicant's response to each. The Parks, Recreation, Cultural Resources Advisory Commission reviewed the Utley Farms PUD project at their August 31st meeting. The commission made a recommendation for a fee in lieu of land dedication or improvements. Approval of the proposed rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest because it will allow development for single-family residential uses in a manner to be generally consistent with the surrounding properties. The proposed rezoning also provides additional environmental conditions and a minimum of 2 affordable housing units. Planning Board held a public hearing on October 10th and unanimously recommended approval with conditions as offered by the applicant. And planning staff recommends approval as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant's in the audience as well.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Stoudemire.
Thank you.
Any questions for? All right, hearing none. Applicant, Mr. Barry.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Jason Barron with Morningstar Law Group. Pleasure to be here. To no surprise to any of you all, I'm not here to just say thank you. And I'm glad there were some annexations between that series of overt thank yous before I had the opportunity to get up here. And I'm going to keep my remarks short. I'm really proud of my efforts, my client's efforts on this particular case. KB Home has worked really hard to make sure that what is delivered on this site is not only consistent with the town's comprehensive plan, which it is, not only will find support of the planning board, which it has unanimously, and not only would find support of the staff, which they have received a recommendation of approval from the staff, but it also kind of checks a lot of boxes that I think most of the cases that you all have seen haven't historically checked, no pun intended. First, I want to point out it does have active solar. I think that, I think this council has done a highly effective job of communicating a message to the development community related to the council's expectations associated with sustainability and environmental sensitivity, and specifically as it relates to providing active solar. So as Lauren mentioned, we do have a condition requiring the installation of 3 homes, a minimum of 3 homes. And all of the homes will have conduit consistent with what you've seen in other cases, so it won't foreclose the opportunity to do that, but it does have active solar. It also is consistent with the town's affordable housing program, and I use that in air quotes, but we have a positive recommendation from the housing program folks associated with housing affordability. And then lastly, and I think importantly, and I want to touch on a couple things related to it, Lauren mentioned the historic home over here. It's the rare occasion when the historic home is located in such a place where you can kind of keep it where it is. And initially, when KB got into this process, they thought this historic home was going to move. Spent a lot of time working with Capital Area Preservation associated with the possibility of moving it across the street. That didn't work out, and so ultimately the recommendation was made by Capital Area Preservation to leave it in its current location. As you can imagine, that impacts the site from how many lots does KB get out of the deal. But they were happy to do so, and Capital Area Preservation, as is always the case, was really good to work with in terms of kind of having a meeting minds associated with not only the historic home that's going to be placed in a preservation easement, but also 2 outbuildings that are going to be relocated around it. And then the last point that I want to make, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, relates to the historic preservation perimeter buffer. It's one of those rare instances where the request is to make the buffer less rather than more, and that was, again, from Capital Area Preservation and the State Historic Property Office, their request that if we're going to keep the historic home, if we're going to make it, as part of a permanent preservation program, we kind of want folks to be able to see it in its current location. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions you all may have. Jeff Roach with Peak Engineering has provided the planning and engineering associated with the site, and he can answer the detailed questions if you've got those. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Any questions for Mr. Barron from council?
I had a question. Mr. Barron, you and Mr. Roach were involved in a rezoning a few years ago on Holt Road, a senior living community, maybe you remember. A sidewalk gap, or a property was in the middle of that development, not part of the actual development that was going to create a sidewalk gap and maybe a road gap as well. And at the time, you were talking about, the gap will be filled. It was difficult to fill because it was steep, but also that it would be filled with future development. The anticipation was Right. that, yep.
So I voted for it, thinking that was gonna work itself out eventually. We got emailed this past week or 2 weeks ago about someone who wants to redevelop that property, and in my opinion, kind of rather undesirably wants to cul-de-sac the road instead of connecting it all the way to Holt Road, and also has requested to not build the sidewalk as part of the development because it's so small,
right?
Only a few homes, and that concerns me from a connectivity point of view. And this development, I have a similar concern because it's not connected to any roads besides Old US 1, even though it's going to stub things, and also there won't be connectivity of sidewalks on either side as proposed. And I've been spooked about future development doing the thing I think was going to happen, and I'm concerned about this one as well. That when the rest of that develops in a way, it may take forever, and then even then they may have a small development that they'll ask to have that deferral as well. So should I be concerned, and how would you, is there a way we can fix that for this development?
Sure. Well, I mean, you don't have to be concerned about this development not providing the sidewalks that are required by the ordinance. Those are commitments
I'm not concerned
as
about
part of
those.
the zoning case. Okay, just wanted to be clear on that front. What happens with other properties, I think you had mentioned the Holt Road example to me a couple weeks ago, and I'm not sure exactly how that site is able to move forward without providing the town-required sidewalk improvements.
It's 4 homes is all, I think that's what's proposed. And that little sliver of a property to the west of this, I don't know how many homes they can build on that either. And so I don't want to repeat that. I don't want to repeat that, even that request happening, let alone, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but I don't want that to happen again.
Sure. I don't know if I can offer you any assurance that that it will or won't happen, Ms. Councilman Gann. The best I can tell you is we're going to do what we're required to do. And hopefully when other properties redevelop, I mean, my guess is given where these properties are located and the style of development that's going on, as well as the home prices that are in that area, as you probably know, they've gone up substantially over the course of the last several years. It would seem to me that none of these properties is going to develop kind of as standalone, that they're going to need to be brought into a collection of properties similar to what is happening here. I mean, the best assurance I can give you is that the economic reality associated with developing property in this part of the town kind of encourages folks to work with their neighbors to assemble more property rather than less. But somebody could build a single-family home and never do it.
But that could be an argument to wait on this until you are able to accumulate at least the properties to the west or properties to the north, that we could have the connection from the very beginning.
I wouldn't make that argument.
It could be made, I think, from what you just said, though.
That's not an unfair point.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Questions for Mr. Barry? Mr. Roach, would you?
I was just going to tell Jason something, but he answered.
Okay.
He got it.
All right.
All right, thank you all.
I have a question, Mr. Barron. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble pulling up my staff report, so I couldn't remember. Did we talk about trees and how the impact of trees, and I can't pull it up to see, did we talk about that? Is there anything offered in terms of tree replacements?
We don't have any conditions right now. So, well,
Sorry, Jeff Roach, Peak Engineering. There are some very large trees associated with historic preservation, but other than that, we focused on the solar, the affordable housing, historic preservation, road widening to go along that way instead. So, and there's, it's a pretty low density at 2 units an acre. So we artificially capped it low to try to preserve some area in the back. It's a lot of creeks and stream buffers in the back. So it's naturally doing it itself.
Okay, so that's.
Yeah.
Other questions? All right, hearing none.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and open up public hearing for comment. Tonight we have Jeff Hastings. We'll call for it.
Mayor, Town Council, glad I was able to get here in the nick of time. Did vote today, so thank you all for serving, as Beth said earlier. Wear my hat today for historic preservation. This project is something that, in my opinion, sets Apex aside from the other communities in Wake County, in that the developer went to Capital Area Preservation, who is our partner, listened to Capital Area Preservation on what needed to happen for that property, and took their advice, and then at planning came to us with that advice, period. As the president of the Apex Historical Society, as a vice chair of the Wake County Historical Commission, these are the things that we look for as successes. There's a lot of failures in this world, but this is a true home run from a historical perspective. And so I congratulate the town for working with the developer. I congratulate Capital Area Preservation. And I congratulate the developer for taking that step forward to helping to preserve that house and the barn and the property. Because once if we don't preserve it and it's gone forever. And we have no ability to go backwards. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. All right, we'll close public hearing for comment. And it's back to council for discussion. Lead to a possible motion to approve.
Mayor?
Yes.
So I'd like to make some comments, and I want to start tonight of thank yous, to add my thanks to the developer, and, to your client, and the fantastic job that you guys did on this project. It's clear from the conditions offered here that you paid close attention to what our values are, and it's reflected in this project, and I'm delighted to see so many different items addressed here without us having to, things go like they usually do up here. It's all here already, and I'm very pleased. And the historic preservation, I think I want to take a moment to acknowledge the impact that has on the property. Like, they're keeping a house, and what is it, like 7 acres? Well, it's not 7 acres, but it's a couple acres of space being absorbed by this one property. That's a big burden on the property owner. And solar panels are there. The affordable housing is there. The conditions are all addressed. And one thing I don't want to sleep on is this right turn lane on Old US 1 to New Hill Olive Chapel or New Hill Holloman Road, whatever it's turns there. That'll be a great asset to the community, to that particular area as that growth develops. It already gets backed up occasionally. It's only going to get worse. And getting this project here with that in place, hopefully, I know there's some caveats here about acquiring the right of way. I'm sorry, just stop. All right. What's going on here? All right. I'll wrap it up then. All right. Saying good things, right? Okay. I think it's fantastic. I'm excited to have that in place before additional properties develop down Old US 1. I'm hoping that it works out. I know, like I said, there's some caveats here, but I look forward to having that there. And I thank you and your client for all the work on this.
Thank you, Councilman.
I do have one question I would love to get from Russell. It's not really a question. Can you help explain a little bit about the significance of that right-hand turn and kind of how this is going to impact our traffic? Can someone speak to that? I don't.
I'm not going to say thank you.
We're all getting along tonight.
There are additional improvements that'll be needed over time as more traffic comes to the intersection. For now, based on our UDO, the right turn lane does mitigate the impact of this development traffic. We do have another development, the Gracewood development, which is finally moving forward with construction plans, which has additional improvements planned for the intersection, so we're working on that as well. So over time, yeah, there'll be more that needs to be done, but
I just think of Kelly Road
Right.
and, Olive Chapel, that intersection there. And I lived by it, I drove by it several years. It was a disaster. And when we put that right turn lane onto Olive Chapel,
Made a difference.
it
Made all the difference.
solved everything. So,
Completely agree. And I think, the point I wanted to make sure was at least addressed is, I know that those who are down that portion of the corridor, traffic is a serious concern. I mean, we recognize that that's something that, was accounted for, and I think, I do thank the developer for at least thinking through on that issue, because I do think that when those who aren't living in the immediate area start to think about the traffic impact, many folks feel like that it may not be a priority. However, I assure everyone that traffic is a high priority, at least in my mind, when we start looking at these sort of endeavors. So I appreciate the hard work the staff did on this.
Now I can say thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, and I also think too that, the offering of low density in this area is appropriate for, the type of traffic and the type of development that we want to see happening out here if we approve something like this. So, thank you. And thank you for, like, Councilmember Mahaffey was saying, us not having to negotiate all of those things that we talk about every single meeting, every single meeting. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I also want to just say thank you to the developer for taking the effort to, you've been listening, you've heard what we've said, and it's great, but I really do want to say thank you to your entire team for reaching out to Capital Area Preservation, because I know I've had conversations directly about that historic home, and you guys made a lot of work in order to make that happen. So I just want you to know we appreciate it. As historical preservation is one of those things that makes a big difference. It helps Apex maintain its small town character, and we appreciate you guys doing what you can to make sure that we can preserve that as best as possible. So, thank you.
I'll make my comments, I guess, before we do the motion. This part of Apex, in my opinion, is kind of the most sprawly part of Apex, and this development, because it's not well connected to the other developments, it's going to be entirely a car-driven neighborhood. And I think there are some great aspects to this development, but I think we can wait for great in this area, and this coming in more, the properties nearby, I think would make it greater. And so I think we can be pickier about this area, and likely get the things that, hopefully get the things that are part of this, as well as the connectivity that we need in this area, and it would really benefit. So I'm planning to vote no, and I hope, if there is a no, I hope there can be a further discussion with the landowners nearby to get the sidewalks and the roads connected better. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
I just want to add one more thing. Scrolling through the application again, I want to point out that this is, I don't know if it's the first, one of the only ones I've seen where almost every EAB recommendation was agreed to. All except the one that wasn't agreed to had involved putting a sign on the ground. I just kind of wish you agreed to that one so we could say it was that you're batting 1,000 here. But the one, it's like, we're going to do in solar, we're, doing a 25-year storm. That's all great. Sign on the ground, nope, too much. Stop right there. So I appreciate the fact that so much of it was agreed to. I will point out, the request was for 20 homes with solar. The agreed to amount was 3. And the reason I'm not twisting anyone's arm over that is because so much other stuff is done here. And there's only so much, reasonableness has to come into play. And because you have an historic home here and you're working hard to preserve it, and the affordable housing conditions, to me, you look at the whole package. So I'm happy with the 3 units here.
Is that a motion by?
Motion to approve the
Second.
annexation and the rezoning.
Okay, motion approved.
Second to both.
Okay, well, any further discussion? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, motion passes 4-1.
Mr. Mayor, just real quick. Sure. I want to recognize Thurm Bowen and Roman Acosta. They're both here with KB Home. They're the two that have made all the decisions, not Jason and I. So those are the guys that are listening to your comments and taking it to heart and doing with their next project. So appreciate the information.
Talk to them about the signs.
I'm just pointing them out because they're here as the builder that are making all those commitments. So thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
And thank you, Ms. Stoudemire, for your work on this as well. All right, move now to public hearing for rezoning case 21CZ 17, 1010 Business Park. Ms. Sarah Van Avery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I would like to say thank you. As some of you already know, this will be my last town council presentation. So I just want to thank you for the time that I've served here and working with y'all, some longer than others. With that, I will present my last rezoning case. This is case 21CZ17 for 1010 Business Park. So we are talking, and this is going to be a portion of the site. We're talking about 4.6 acres located here on the south side of 1010 Road, the very eastern side of Apex. So we'll zoom in here, and this rectangle here is the portion that we are looking at rezoning. And so just to kind of highlight here, follow the pointer, this is, not all of this obviously is in the rezoning, but just as what comes up in future discussion when we get to some of the zoning conditions. And y'all may have seen this from your October consent agenda, so you may have seen most of the staff report with a few changes, which I'll get to here soon. So the portion of the property that is proposed for rezoning is this green guy here that's currently zoned residential agriculture. As you can tell here from the map, it is surrounded by LI light industrial property. And that is the proposed zoning, this LI conditional zoning. So as you can see here, this would sort of fill in the color gap. The proposed zoning is consistent with the 2045 land use map, which recommends industrial employment uses. So I'll leave us here on this guy as I go through the staff report. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on April 28th, 2021. Given the time span since the initial neighborhood meeting, the applicant conducted a second neighborhood meeting on September 8th, 2022. Those meeting reports are attached in your packets. We talked about the land use map recommends that it is consistent, the light industrial conditional zoning is consistent with the industrial employment land use classification. The permitted uses, pretty much taking up all of page 2 of your staff report are the permitted uses and then the special uses. And just wanted to, that full listing is in there. These are uses consistent with the LI zoning district. So now we'll get to some of the meat here that we're looking at. There are a total of 4 zoning conditions. The first 3 were in the information presented to you back in October. And that first one is a 12-foot type C buffer along the eastern and westernmost boundaries of the area, with the additional condition that the planting of such buffers will include a minimum of 3 species of native hardwood canopy trees with a size at installation no smaller than 2.5-inch caliper. The buffer shall not preclude any vehicular cross connections to adjacent properties pursuant to an approved site plan. So everything following consistent with the UDO. And then what we have here, just this relates to zoning condition number 2. This is an existing communications tower. This is the G105 radio tower. And there's also a full report from the structural engineer on this attached to your packet. But the tower improvements substantially similar to or greater than those that serve as the basis for a zero fall zone letter submitted with the rezoning application shall be constructed, and a certification of the completion of construction of such improvements shall be submitted to the town prior to the approval of construction drawings. Third zoning condition, for any building greater than 10,000 square feet, the building design shall include conduit for the future installation of solar PV panels and sufficient roof load bearing capacity to support the solar PV panels. The new condition that has been added since This was presented at the Planning Board public hearing, is number 4. And that is, in the event that the self-storage buildings, that would be for the use self-storage, are constructed fronting 1010 Road, the following architectural conditions shall apply for the building facade for the use self-service storage. So that complete listing there, there's 7 parts to, well, I guess 7 plus parts to zoning condition 4. This is what, very similar to what you would have seen with the 3075 Lufkin Road rezoning less than a year ago. So again, these are architectural conditions. These have been vetted with staff. These are for only that particular use, and why we have these is during the initial review, staff had recommended that only access be provided for self-storage if that were to front 1010 Road, and as a compromise, the applicant has added these architectural conditions so that if that use is what ends up being there, that we'll have a product that we can all be pleased with. In conclusion, the Planning Board held a public hearing on September 12th, 2022, and unanimously voted to recommend approval with conditions as offered by the applicant. Again, those would have been conditions 1 through 3. As I mentioned, during the petition review, staff recommended the applicant limit the use self-service storage to self-service storage access only, given the property's location on 1010 Road and its proximity to an existing self-storage use, public storage. Planning staff recommends approval of case 21CZ17, 1010 Business Park with the additional use limitation and conditions as offered by the applicant. Approval of this rezoning is reasonable because the proposed light industrial conditional zoning district is consistent with the industrial employment land use classification of the 2045 land use map. And the proposed rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest because it will allow for the development of non-residential uses that are consistent with surrounding properties, especially those on the south side of 1010 Road. It will also encourage compatible development of the property and increase the tax base. I will be happy to answer any questions for you, and the applicant is here as well, should you have questions for him. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. I met with the applicant before, and we talked about this a little bit, but could you go over, just kind of for the record here, why this rezoning is even necessary? Because my understanding is they have most of the entitlements they need on the property to the south, but there's an issue where the current zoning doesn't allow access or something. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, correct. So the RA zoning district would limit them in their uses significantly. So that is by proposing the LI district, it makes the entire site compatible, and it allows for there to be a more consistency among the uses.
I thought there was an issue where they couldn't develop the LI to the south with an RA in between without some sort of buffering or some sort of access issue. No?
It's not allowed. You have to have.
It's not allowed, okay.
It wouldn't be allowed at all. The access, they would have to go through another LI property.
I see.
So the easiest solution for this case would be to rezone it to LI.
Okay. So I just want to make the point, this is a pretty unique case, where they own a significant more property than what's being rezoned here. And they have all the entitlements they need on the majority of their property, but it's essentially orphaned a little bit without this rezoning. They can't get to it for an LI use like they want.
Other questions? Comments? Okay.
Comments, just good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you've done for the town.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right. Does the applicant wish to come up?
And I would try to be very brief. My name is Gray Stiers. My address is 434 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh, North Carolina, Suite 2800. It is my privilege this evening to be here on behalf of J National Capital 5 LLC, which has an option to purchase and develop this property. So I don't have a whole lot to add over and above what's already been said. This is an odd split zone piece, as Mr. Mahaffey has already identified. I don't know what the genesis of this odd split zoning is. I can only speculate that there was probably a house that fronted 1010 Road. And so when this was initially zoned and part of Apex, they didn't want that house to be non-conforming, and they carved out this RA, which created, however, over time, a basically inconsistent zoning classification when you approved your land use plan, which said that this area should have been employment, an industrial employment center, for which RA is not an appropriate zoning classification, and LI is. So that's kind of why we are here today, and Mr. Mahaffey's also explained that in some detail with his questions. It is to eliminate the split zoning. It's a little unusual. Often I'm in front of a board in which I'm advocating for split zoning, and here I'm, and I've got to justify it. Here I'm actually asking the split zoning be removed. I'm often in front of boards in which I am trying to explain why a rezoning should be approved, although it may not be consistent with the land use plan. And here I'm before you with a piece of a parcel that is inconsistent with the land use plan, and asking that you rezone it consistent with the land use plan. This is not only identified as an industrial employment center in the 2045 plan, but also actually is an employment mixed-use node in your land use plan. Also, it's identified, this particular parcel is identified in the land use plan as an underdeveloped parcel that is not contributing to the town's tax base. I'm assuming that the history there is that there had been some concerns about constructing a large major development in LI beneath the tower that had been there for many, many years. So that leads me to the conditions, which I think is going to be a win-win for the town as well as for Jay National Capital, which is that as a condition, as Ms. Van Avery pointed out, it is an old tower. It's been there for 35 years. It is not up to structural standards that if it were built new today. So we are agreeing to, the applicant is agreeing to strengthen the tower. It has been engineered so that with certain structural supports, that it will actually have a zero fall zone, which in essence will have the same structural characteristics of this building, basically. That's not to say that a tornado won't hit it, but that's what I'm saying. If it does, then they've got bigger issues than the tower being there. So with that, I will just add that in the discussions over with both staff and with some of you, we recognize that there was a concern about there being self-storage on 1010 Road, although it is a very high density multifamily development directly across 1010, which is exactly where there's probably needs to be and would be a demand for self-storage. We don't know if that will be developed, but if it is, we think it is an appropriate location. And so I am unabashedly confessing that we plagiarized the conditions from the last approval, self-storage unit that you approved to ensure that it met the standards that you've already established for the town of Apex from an aesthetics perspective. We did conduct 2 community meetings, and there was no opposition expressed at either of those meetings. We appreciate all the support and cooperation of staff and working with us through the fall zone letter and this engineering design. It's been a long process. We've worked, we've appreciated the support and, well, not the cooperation and assistance of staff through that process. And then, of course, we have made this proposal to the Planning Board, which recommended approval unanimously. So consistent with that Planning Board recommendation, the staff's recommendation, the absence of opposition, the consistency with the land use plan, and the benefits the town will receive from having an undeveloped piece of property developed and contributing to the tax base with a strengthened tower. For all those reasons, we would greatly appreciate your approving the request for rezoning tonight. Be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, I had a question. So in our discussion, we talked about self-storage a lot because I think it's well known that I don't like them anywhere in Apex. And you talked about it being a possible best use despite the kind of idleness that they are and low employment. So can you speak to kind of the thought process for desire for that? I know you mentioned across the street, the high density, but there's also existing self-storage and future self-storage in the area. So how's it still the best use with that kind of conditions?
I just have two responses to that. The first is, we're just looking for flexibility, quite frankly. We are working on development plans. We have an engineer that's working on site plans. We are actively talking to a multitude of potential tenants or purchasers of pieces of this property. There'll probably going to be a subdivision at some point in time. And the preliminary discussions that we have received from some of the folks we are talking to and real estate brokers indicates that there is still a very high demand for self-storage in this part of Apex. So given what we see as the market demand, based upon the feedback we're getting from real estate brokers and prospective purchasers, we did not want to eliminate that as an option that we felt would be appropriate and consistent with the zoning classification of LI, which is all around it, where self-storage is by right an allowed use.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Stires?
Thank you very much. Appreciate your consideration.
All right, with that, we'll open up public hearing for comment. No one has signed up tonight. We'll close it, and it's back to council for discussion. Lean to a possible motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
Second. Happy. Further discussion?
Maybe I'll just say I don't like self-storage. I think it's a terrible use on almost every piece of land, but the opportunities for this parcel otherwise make it different than maybe different cases like the one that we had in Friendship a little while ago and other places in Apex, so I plan to support.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say my perspective on this is almost as feels, I mean, maybe it's going a little too far to say this, but it almost feels sort of like a technical correction here, the way that we have a mixed zoning between these two properties and how they have all these entitlements to the south and they have no way of accessing it. It's almost like they should have a way to access and use the LA land. I'm satisfied. I share your concerns about self-storage. I don't want self-storage all over. I think that's a problem that'll correct itself, both in the market and as the cost of land goes up. It almost, at a certain point, it's, you know, as the land gets more expensive, you got to build something more profitable than self-storage, I guess. I'm assuming is what would happen. I'm satisfied with the conditions that are offered. I do think if you're going to put self-storage somewhere across the street from high density is a good place to do it.
I share your hope about self-storage. I just haven't seen it happen in real life that they've changed over. So maybe that will happen in the future.
As I look at this, you know, what we're doing is we're making a consistent land use. It's consistent with our land use planning. It actually makes this parcel, quite frankly, best use. Changing it to LI, I always, one of the first things I was thinking about was, you know, I said, Councilmember Gant's not gonna like the fact that there's gonna be a possibility of storage unit here. However, let me just throw this in. I did actually have an opportunity to have a conversation with someone at Avalon Peaks, the neighborhood right across the street. And one of the things that she had told me was, the problem that she's always looking for is she needs to be able to have space to just store stuff for the kids and Christmas things and stuff like that. And the ability to have that right across the street ultimately makes it a lot easier for her to be able to get access to it and maximizes their use to it. And I thought that was a fair argument. So I understand the concerns about storage, you know, just empty boxes not generating anything. But in this case, if that were to happen, I feel like it's in a location where at least I think it would be more maximally used than many other locations where we have storage. So to me, this is a good use of the property, and you're taking care of a dangerous tower.
I would agree, and I would just add too, given the traffic on 1010, the use of self-storage would be a lower traffic impact to use, which I think is positive to think about as well.
Thank you, everyone. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Ms. Van Every, thank you so much for your commitment to the town of Apex.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. All right. All right, we're done with public hearings and now updates by Manager Crosby.
Good
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just a few updates. First, we are doing a townwide customer service survey, and that survey will be open until December 20th. More information can be found on our website. We will have hard copies available at our town facilities, and we're also promoting it through the utility bills, Suburban Living, social media, and other digital channels. But we want to encourage our residents to complete the customer service survey and give us feedback on how we can improve our services. Our offices are closed on Friday, November 11th, in recognition of Veterans Day. We will have a Veterans Day ceremony from 9 to 9:30 downtown on Saunders and Salem Street, so welcome everybody to attend that. And then we also have our annual Turkey Trot on November 19th, which is sold out. And unfortunately, I did not sign up, or maybe fortunately, I did not sign up for that, but looking forward to having folks participate. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Could I just ask, who's gonna make the decision about the Veterans Day, given the weather? Will that be the American Legion, or will that be pushed out on social media?
They need a place.
Yes, but we can push it out on social media. I'll make sure we do that as well, but it's their event, so.
Will we have space for them, possibly?
Yes, sir.
I can check. I haven't been asked, but
Okay.
I guess this is the official request.
Okay, all right, yes, please.
Yeah, kind of unique requesting is how I think this was like a hurricane that no one, I mean, literally, I like to watch the tropics, and then about 4 hours ago, they're like, there's a hurricane coming towards Florida. I was like, what?
Yeah, I will send a message now.
Thank you so much for that. All right, we'll move to the last item, closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
All right,
A second.
all right. Second, Mayor Pro Tem, sorry. Motion by Gant. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, move now to closed session.